The Property Owners Association of Bella Vista, in cooperation with Bella Vista Community Television, presents the monthly POA board meeting held at the Bella Vista Country Club.
Good evening. I'd like to call the April 2015 monthly board meeting of the Bella Vista Village Property Owners Association to order. If everyone would rise. If John, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone would remain standing. Tonight's invocation is by Pastor Lee McClenathan of the Bella Vista Christian Church. Pastor?
Father, I just pray that you would be present in this meeting. These individuals that have taken on the challenge and given up their time to be part of this board do not have an easy time of it often, because we live in a community where there's going to be difference of opinion, different thoughts, different ideas, different suggestions, and we live in a changing community, growing community, and sometimes just finding cooperation is difficult between the different entities that are over our community. I would ask, Father, that you would bless this meeting tonight. I would pray that you would be present among us. I pray that you'd be here in the conversation, and I pray that you would give the members of the board, those that have come, just discretion and discussion, decisions. Just simply ask, Father, that you would allow for there to be a spirit of unity, not just among the POA, but Father, all the different governing factors in our community. We just pray, Father, that you would bless this time together, bless decisions, and that we would seek your discretion, and your wisdom, and your knowledge. So we just ask for this blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? I have the proxy of Joan Lipzinski this evening. She's out of town on work-related issue. Okay. The board had an executive session on April 2nd, 2015 to address written charges presented to Board Chairman Charlie Teal that Director Linda Leffler violated Policy 1.10 Board of Directors Ethics. The board considered the charges and determined that the appropriate action was to remove Director Leffler from the board effective immediately. Next item is approval of the minutes of the March board meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes. Second. Any discussion? Call for a vote. In favor? I have two. Okay. All right. Tommy, General Manager's report.
Good evening. Just going over a few of our projects. Of course, TEI, which is our point of sale and membership system that we have went live just recently. At this point in time, we're concentrating on the reports that need to be written. We, because of the cost, did not go with a turnkey, essentially a turnkey installation. We're doing a lot of the in-house modifications as well as report writing in the end to save money. So that's why we're talking about it. It's going to be phased in, not just flip the switch and everything is up and running. The web portal went online on the 31st, and so now we can accept assessment payments online. Tennis went live on April the 1st. Pool systems, as far as the POS, will be ready when they open up in May. We did have a little bit of a problem. Membership services just recently after a storm had nothing to do with TEI. We had some problems with our Citrix, and we had to rebuild a virtual server. and the project continues to be on schedule. We are working on some ADA projects. We have quite a few that we have under contract at the moment. This is one of the ones that is being worked over at the Metfield Park. We're doing work on the sidewalks as well as on the parking lot. We're also working on inside as well. Other projects, we have engaged Alta Planning to work on a plan for the Branchwood Complex, and we did have two of their land use architects in town for 3 days, and so they are working, and I will have hopefully a project as far as the beginning of a plan around the first of the month. As far as trails are concerned, we have been working for a long time with the Bella Vista Foundation and the Walton Family Foundation to complete a master plan. And so that was presented this last week, Tuesday night. Researching the best methods at this point to access the public, to access our common property. And so we are working with our developer on that. And then also we have the first 39 miles of trail that is ready to begin construction as soon as we complete the access issue. And that's going to be done through the Trailblazers by a grant that was given to them by the Walton Foundation. Once a quarter, I report on foreclosures and delinquencies and such, and so I wanted to just go through those slides rather quickly. As you can see, in 2015, we dropped considerably with the number of judgments that we have obtained. These have to be in the pipeline for a while. We made a conscious decision for 2014 to reduce our foreclosure activity, and so we've now got to rebuild the pipeline before we can get that built back up. As far as lots that have been sold online, these is lots that are sold through the association. There's been 14 year-to-date versus 19 in 14 and 46 in 13. As far as the judicial auctions, these are lots that are being sold as a result of foreclosure. There was 30 that's so far this year versus 64 last year. Again, a difference in the pipeline as well as a difference in who's buying lots, and the lots that are not purchased at these auctions we pick up and they go into our inventory. As far as delinquent collections, March year-to-date, again, we're seeing a drop here. That would be expected. Our membership services group has a lot to do with the daily collections, and they've been working on the TEI on their side, as well as this is the beginning of the year, so we have a lot of annual memberships that are paid for, so they've had less time to work on collections. As far as our delinquencies are concerned, on the unimproved only, these are delinquencies considered greater than 120 days. As you can see, we've seen a slight downward tick right here after a while of going up. If you look at the improved, just the opposite the last couple of months. And again, I believe that has to do with the amount of effort that's been put into there. And overall, we saw just a slight drop there for the month of March from February. I want to preface this next part. At the end of February, Director Brooks asked about an analysis of where we were with our annual membership type of things, whether it be photo ID, annual golf fee, or whatever. So we prepared that. I told him at that time February was really too early, and at least let's wait until March. Because of the weather, and we really haven't started our season, take all of these analyses with a grain of salt. You cannot look, because we haven't started our season, you can't make any kind of judgments based on this first 3 months. And we see that variability all the time. So go through it fairly quickly and just stop me if there's anything you want to look at. This is the annual greens fee, and the first is going to be the units. Our actual for 2014 was 321. 15, we've sold 335. So we actually had an uptick there. Our budget was 327. So see it going in the right direction. I thought it was interesting, though, in the dispersal, which is what we would have expected. Of course, we initiated a $10 a month fee for monthly payments. So as you can see, we had a huge difference in going from monthly to an annual pay. So still the same numbers, but the makeup has moved greatly towards getting that money up front. As far as the revenue, $233,365 this year. And again, a lot of this has to do with timing. They paid up front versus paying monthly. The annual seat leases, we're seeing a drop this year. But again, if people are not really playing yet because of the weather, then they're not going to go out and spend the money to get that seat lease. Seat lease revenue, although it's down quite a bit on the units because we went up on the seat lease, it is almost equal. Value cards sold, again, same situation. Almost 1,100 last year. This time we're at 817 versus our budget of 977. However, because of the difference in fees, we're up ahead a little bit. Private card registered, same story as it was for the seat leases. Boat registrations are actually up. And that's the revenue, of course, has went up. The moorings, 92, 106 this year. And the fees, of course, went up. RV spaces went up just slightly. Fees went up slightly. Photo IDs is kind of interesting. We had 4,000 that was budgeted, or last year, excuse me. We've never had the additional one for unimproved lots. So there was 413, which was actually what we'd only recommended or thinking that we would get was 210. So it actually had a lot more people that are living close by that wanted that photo ID. So at this point in time, as you can see, we're about 3,700 versus the 4,000. And again, the same thing applies because it's earlier in the year. Although revenue went up quite a bit because of that difference. Golf rounds, 19.3 March, we're about 5.8% down from last year. Looking now at the rounds, and in this case, if you look at the rounds, we actually, the line doesn't show great because this is the budgeted column. But you see the 13, 14, and then 15, when it comes to the value card, we've seen a drop here. Annual green fees, pretty well level. Rounds. Other member rounds, fairly level, and guest rounds, fairly level. Also was going to show it in bar graph because you can look at different trends versus line versus bar. So this is what it looks like there, and you can still, of course, see the same things, but it takes the budget more and you can look at it separately. Thank you. Next, same information, but looking at the revenue side. We saw that the value card went up a little bit. We're seeing these, but then the annual golf fee went way up. And this is, when we do this, this again shows that big change in the revenue because we got those numbers early. Same thing here.
With the value card tied to seat leases or private cards, with those being down, that's going to naturally bring the other one down. And as more people decide to get a seat lease, et cetera, probably will buy into value cards at that time.
That's the assumption that I would be making. Again, based on the variability of the weather we've been having, with all the rain, we've had some cold fronts move through at different times. So it's not something that's unusual for us. Moving on into the rest of the report, water lines, we did have 32 leaks this last time, 27 1-inch all the way up to 1 12-inch. So certainly we did see a little bit more problems. Generally it's last couple of months, it's been down below 30. We had another, I think I've reported on this about 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months that of cars hit a fire hydrant and that we've had to fix it. This is our setup. We test our meters that before they are installed, and then also if a member comes in and said they don't believe that their meter is running close, we have 2 different tanks run there that we can set there, and they can witness it if they choose to. And we will test the meter right there. As far as other things, 458 fire hydrants were serviced and maintained. We actually did 98 flow testing, and this is where we actually hook them up and see what the flow is on those. Of course, we do our bacterial samples. 13,000 meters were read, 575 work orders, and 257 one-call locates that we have to do mainly around contractors. Another picture, we're working here in the Metfield pool shower area to make it ADA compliant. Illegal dumping at the Highlands Stump Dump. Just the cost to clean up this one area is about $500. The stump dump cost us about $60,000 a year to operate. The board stopped us from charging that a little over a year ago. And so I'm bringing that back to the board's attention again, that is something that is costing quite a bit of money and making no revenue at the moment. And we did hear at our meeting that our fees is not really what is causing the difference in the builders here that we had a few months ago with the city. And so I would encourage the board to look at that again in the future. Again, this is something I think we've seen 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months, somebody backing into one of the meter or the electrical outlets there at the RV park. Veterans Wall of Honor, we had to put in a new backflow preventer. Lowen Springs, we had some graffiti there. Did block out what was there, but something that we see quite often nowadays. While we were cleaning up those things, we went through and did a whole repair and repainting of the facility. Also, getting the season ready at the Highlands Gun Trap and Skeet Range. We did some painting and repairing there. We replaced the 30-ton unit at Reardon Hall. Well, we have 2 of those, and we replaced one on an emergency basis about 2 years ago during the middle of summer. And so this one was up to go, and so we replaced it. We've also improved our Wi-Fi there at the Kingsdale Pool, and we have had to do some triangulating because we start seeing that the people using the pool, the bandwidth goes down, and we start checking it, and we find people parked in the parking lot and stuff like that. And this is mainly just to handle the people at the pool. We had to replace or repair an area that where a sprinkler at a clubhouse at Metfield leaked. Of course, it's the beginning of the season. We're starting to get the pools ready, putting in the lifts there as well as removing the cover. We do winterize all of our facilities that are out lying, and so we're going through and replacing or putting all the water faucets back, working on the preventers, all those things. Cleaning up the boat fleet for the summer season, and getting ready for the pools. Starting the new landscaping. This is just some examples of some of the things we did at the different places, getting it ready for the season. And we've had an interesting thing this year. We usually don't see the redbud and the dogwoods blooming simultaneously, and they're doing that this year, and it's been really nice. Working there at the Highlands, Yacht Club, Lowen Springs Park, some other areas. We also have wrapped up the handicap parking lot that we added at the dog park. They're putting the sod in after we had built the road and added the parking lot. Also a new sign for London Landing. We had to repair some water line over at the softball field. We put this new tank in for our, we had to put in some electrical explosion-proof wiring. Reardon Hall, again, preparing for the season, doing our spring cleaning. rebuilt the bridge that was washed away when we had the flood. Working on some erosion areas that we have. And also repairing some of the trail. I've got some slides later on, but we rebuilding the berm around the driving range, and since we were redoing the driving range, we stripped the sod off of that area and used it to cover the berm. Cleaning up the road that we had put in to get the heavy equipment into the Tanyard Creek for the stream restoration project, and getting that ready to open later this month. Again, cleaning up, getting it ready. Someone backed into the wall here in front of the country club, and we had to rebuild that. As you can see, it was weakened over time anyway. I know I show pictures of this quite often. We run into an issue a few years ago that we were starting to get a lot of complaints that a lot of the things in the RV storage looked junky. It just looked like things had been left there derelict. So we started a program at that point in time that after we had cleaned it all out, resurfaced, that we would tour it once a month or so and touch base with the owners that have problem areas. And I think it certainly has helped, and we haven't been having those concerns expressed. This is something, and certainly if you guys have been playing the Highlands, you've noticed this. We have recurring issues with members going out and clearing common property for whatever reason, a view of the golf course, a view of the lake, whatever the case may be. In the past, we have been very lenient on that and essentially just issued them a letter, asked them to stop. If they cut trees down bigger than a certain size, we would only ask them to put a sapling back in its place. But we have had some discussion lately, and Doug is working on a new policy where we will start to address this a lot more aggressively. This is certainly all this stuff was left. We're having erosion problems, and then we have all this stuff right down here by the cart path. So the debris was all left behind. And we have been getting quite a few complaints about that. We had our golf expo, and continues to grow, continues to be successful. We put in the new lift. Our other lift had gotten to the point that it wasn't working, it was unsafe, and we had to discontinue using it. We did pull the irrigation pump and the motor from the Branchwood well that we had put in a couple of years ago that will no longer be needed since we have repurposing it from a golf course to something else. So I'd also mentioned a month or so ago that our Brittany golf course well went down, so we're reusing that equipment over at Brittany, and whatever we decide to do at the Branchwood complex will not require that type of gallons per minute output, and so we'll put something with a much smaller motor, much smaller pump that won't cost $25,000, $30,000 like this one did. Working on a cart path project at Scottsdale. We continue to do a lot of those that have been destroyed over the years. I replaced the planking on the bridge here. I mentioned earlier about rebuilding the Tanyard Creek practice facility. We've been working on that. Upgrading landscape beds on the golf course. Of course, doing our maintenance, vertical mowing of the greens. We did our annual inspection of the Loch Lomond Dam. Another issue, we had a lakefront property owner cut trees and fall over into the lake. It's a good thing for the fishery, but neighbors don't usually like it, so we had to remove those. Also working on an area to clean up debris on one of the coves. And this was just a picture, John, you may have even sent this to me. Somebody sent it to me, showing water flowing past the new work that's been done at the Tanyard Creek. Okay, I can't remember who sent it to me. But it shows, and it's really showing a nice stream compared to what it was before the restoration. Of course, we stocked 750 catchable size rainbow trout. That'll be the last one for the season until fall. One lady here caught a nice golden trout which is actually a rainbow trout that just more like an albino type of coloring. And member here caught rainbow trout there. So had a couple of really good months, and so that continues to be a very popular. That concludes my report. Is there any questions?
Yeah. Tommy, I have two questions. Could you tell us when the March financials will be on the website?
Probably Monday.
Okay. Second thing, as you said, the board removed the fees for the stump dump in order to encourage building in the village, and for us to reconsider that, one of the data points we're going to need is some detailed basis of your $60,000 cost estimate. So as soon as you can provide that to us, where the $60,000 came from and how you calculated that, maybe we can get started on looking at that fee again.
That is in your budget book, and we do always put that together. So it'll be available when the budget book is printed, which is almost ready, and we can send you but we can go ahead and send you a copy of just that one budget sheet.
And this is just my own ignorance, but online versus judicial auctions, are we establishing the same $1,000 minimum bid price on those for both online and judicial?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I'll go back and review your report then, but I was wondering if we'd seen a decline in the number of lots purchased after we increased the minimum bid, or if it's kind of unchanged.
I don't know that we've got anything that can say, yes, that was the issue, because we saw a decrease in sales from last year from the previous year. We have seen an increase in sales from this year, from 2014. Whether we can say that that was just going to happen anyway because it had happened in the last couple of years, or it was because of the rate increase, I don't think that we can say that. Doug, do you know if there's been any anecdotal comments or anything?
No, there's been a slight decrease in the number of online lots sold, but the revenue's actually increased, obviously, so it's kind of been a wash. A slight decrease in the number of lots sold.
Any other comments about the general manager's report? The only two things I wanted to kind of point out was there were 79 new property owners in the month of March that are new property owners to Bella Vista. And in the first quarter of 2015, we had 14 new home permits, which is hopefully a increasing trend moving forward. Next item on the agenda is response to previous open forum comments. All open forum comments at last month's meeting were addressed. The only thing that I wanted to add, and that was in your general manager's report, was there was a member who made a comment about lakes and fishing, and a suggestion that we add additional trout to Lake Brittany, and we did that this month. So I think that's a pretty good response to what a member's suggestion might have been. Next item is open forum. Anyone who wants to address the board, I would ask you to approach the microphone, and please give us your name and address. Anyone?
My name's Deanna Schlegel. I live at 14 Worth Place in Bella Vista. We have been in Bella Vista since 1997. My husband passed away, and we have asked for permission to use the Highlands Clubhouse to have a celebration of his life, if that is possible. I'm willing to pay any kind of a deposit that I need to, or rental rate. I just need to be able to use it.
I know that the clubhouse, which has not been really used in the main area since it was closed, except we did have one meeting there back at the end of the year, has not been cleaned. And I did send out something to the Friends of the Highlands to see if they would participate in that. And I'm hoping that they will help us. They were already saying they were going to clean it before their July 4th tournament. And so that was one of the things that we were looking at since we don't have any staff out there. But that's the next step.
We'll be glad to clean it. I have a large family here, and they'd be glad to do
What dates were you looking at?
it Sunday.
This Sunday?
Yes.
Is there a contact, either phone or email, that we could kind of coordinate with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'd rather you just write it down rather than telling the world.
Okay. All right. I'll do that then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then
Thank
someone
you.
will follow up with you.
Yes.
Okay.
She had contacted Sylvia to begin with, and Sylvia had forwarded it over to Dwayne. And so, yes, we will be picking back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're sorry for your loss.
Yeah, we are sorry for your loss.
Parsons, and I'm chairman of the Bella Vista Patriots, 29 Duval Lane. Our slogan has been for several years, POA, go away, but I believe that we could change that mantra to POA, please stay. I know that you have said that you're going into debt, $62.5 million in the next 9 years, which doesn't seem to be a real good plan for any of us that live here. And so we can see by the slideshow that maybe the reason that we're going into debt and the reason for the financial distress is that we just own too many amenities. We don't need 7 golf courses with just 18% of our people playing golf. We feel like, the Patriots, that it would be a good thing if we had one premier golf course, one of world class, where we could hold the LPGA here, other tournaments. We wouldn't need to be spending $162,000 to put lipstick on a pig. We'd fatten that pig and make him look so good that build a good hamburger and they'll come. And that's kind of where I think if we had us a premier golf course, and so many people have talked about that, said we'd like to have one where we truly could say this is really a golf destination. Hardly anyone's going to drive hundreds of miles to go to an average golf course. Those are all everywhere. So we need one good golf course, one that would draw people from everywhere and be really worthy and have some good tournaments here. That'll give us good publicity and marketing and take care of those things. Take 2 golf courses, one of them give it to the city and let them see what they could do with it as a municipal golf course. Let some entrepreneur who knows what he's doing take another golf course and see if he can make money with it. Take the rest of the golf courses and let the people have them. We've been paying for all of this for 50 years. It's about time, I think, that we start thinking about the people rather than the corporation, and let the people have these amenities and see if we can't give them to the city and see if the city can't operate them and more efficiently and make money out of them. And if they can't, then they're not worth having. Might as well do away with them, I suppose, if they're not being used and no one cares about them. If we could give those to the city, let the city make some money out of them and increase their revenues, put in some businesses and restaurants and schools. We really can't be a good, solid community without having schools. There's just no such thing as a great city without having an educational program. And so it would be good if we could give Reardon Hall, make a high school out of it, take Metfield Golf Course and put a junior high there, and have our own school district. This thing of busing to Bentonville, that can't go on forever. If you've been out on the highway lately, the traffic there is just terrible. The cost of busing and the time the kids are on the buses. The legislature just almost this last time made a ruling that no child would spend more than 50 minutes on a bus. Some of our children are on there for an hour and a half, and that's just too much education time lost. They get to school, they're fatigued, they're tired, they've had breakfast so early that they're already malnourished by the time they get to lunch. And so we need to do these things, I believe. The one reason for us to keep the POA, of course, is to maintain the lakes and to hold on to them. I live on Lake Avalon, and none of us would like to have just anybody and everybody coming through our property and leaving beer cans and having parties on our docks and so forth. So we need to have the POA take care of a major golf course, make it a golf destination, maintain our lakes, and then cut down on everything else. And I believe that your $8 million of assessment money will take care of this, and you'll do a good job and still stay afloat. And so,
Thank you.
POA, please stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ralph?
I'm Ralph Patterson, live at 34 Rannick Drive. I'm the chairman of the Bella Vista Ambassadors, and I would suggest to anyone that watches this on television, they're interested in becoming a part of that group, please join us. I'll tell you, it's one of the most fun things you could do is to show people around Bella Vista, because this is a great place. I wrote some notes down because I didn't want to forget anything. Barbara and I have been big supporters of the POA and of the POA board, and we voted yes on every proposal for a assessment increase since we moved here in 2004. We believe in Bella Vista, current and in the future. Over the past 3 years, I think the board has done an excellent job improving our facilities and communicating with our membership, and I hope that the board that continues and takes over in May will continue that trend. I'm extremely, extremely happy that you're moving to give the members on the east side an exercise facility and some more space out there. Even though Barbara and I live on as far as you can be on the west side, and we've always contended that those people just got left out, and it was Cooper's fault. He promised them something, didn't give it to them, but it's good that you're doing that, and I just want to commend you for doing that. I sent an email to all the board members urging you with a very elaborate plan to move membership services back to town center and keep the restaurant at Metfield. However, I will say that I spoke to some of the Metfield neighbors in the last week or so, and they're more than happy to give up that restaurant. And so I say they live over there. That's the way they want it. That's fine. I certainly support them, and I defer to them on that issue. I was suggesting that we move the POA administrative offices to the lower level of the country club building and move member services over into where the POA admin is now, and I propose this only as a temporary fix until we can develop this location, which I have dubbed a one-stop, which would be an agreement between the city of Bella Vista and the POA, where we could have all of our services, the ACC, water, sewer, city permits, POA member services, and everything housed together. And I would say to you, if the board really feels that you can get one stop up and running within the next 18 months, all of us would be ecstatic. And I really encourage you to try to get that done. Now, regarding moving admin services except golf and recreation to the lower level of the country club, in the long run, I still think that's a good idea. Obviously, if we did that, we would need to do a lot of things. We would need to make a lot of improvements. We'd have to put some windows in there so they can see out. We'd have to make it an attractive space, do some works for restrooms and what have you like that. And I'm thinking all these things could be done. But I want to assure you, I was not talking about moving admin services to the basement, to a very drab place. I think we can make it a beautiful place down there and a place where people could enjoy working. At the same time, we could open up where admin is now for members to use for reception areas, for card areas, for possibly changing rooms for weddings, and bring back Bella Vista Country Club to the a little at least of the glory that it used to have in years past. So right now, I agree that the major purpose, or the major priority is making the people in Medfield happy. And I think that should be our priority. They need an exercise facility, they need a grill where they can serve hamburgers and hot dogs and beer and soft drinks, and provide a large enough space where 2 or 3 golf groups could sit around after a golf outing and just have some social time. So if you can promised that member services would only be there for 12 to 18 months, I'm okay with that. But if it's going to drag on to 4, 5, 6 years, then I think maybe a more grandiose plan ought to be considered. I want to make something really clear. My recommendations for this were intended to win greater support from the membership to the board, to feel like the board was really doing something for them to enhance their facilities. And so I continue to encourage you to continue doing this. And I realize that it's a difficult job that you do. But if you do that, if you show this continued support for members, what you're going to find, I think, what we're all going to find is we're going to be able to pass the next assessment increase that all of us realize we need, and which just makes sense to keep Bella Vista the beautiful and great facility that it is right now. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Ralph. Any comments from the board? The only other thing that you failed to mention, Ralph, was that if we're going to have a food service location at the Metfield Clubhouse, we need to have a license to be able to dispense beer.
Absolutely. I mean, when doctors go over there, we just sort of break and go home, and that sort of discourages people from playing, because golf is not just a hit and ball, it's also a social aspect afterwards. And I'm not even a beer drinker. I'm not a Coke guy, but most of my buddies drink beer, and we need to have a place where they can drink beer over there, not just golf.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Steve McKee, live at 3 Tyree Place. I wanted to get a couple of clarifications. On the ADA budget, I think it's $650,000. Is that the final figure, or will there be more?
That is only for a group of projects that we felt were the more highly used areas. We're tackling those first. The other areas that we haven't even touched some of our other parks yet. There's some of the buildings that's going to have to still be worked on, so it's only going to be a group of our facilities.
Do we have an estimate for the final number?
We don't have a good estimate. We did a study that showed all of the issues that are out there. We did not pay the money to go ahead and address what the estimates were, all of those at the same time, but we believe it's probably going to number anywhere between $1.5 million and $2 to $2.5 million.
If we did everything.
That's a large
Yeah, everything at once and all that, yes.
You what?
If we did everything at once, that would be what the total number.
So $2.5 million minus the $650 already allocated, so we maybe have $1.9 million left.
Yes, but we have set aside, there's still another $750 or so that was set aside from the sale of the municipal buildings. The whole money that was left over from the membership services move when those buildings were sold was earmarked for ADA compliance.
Yeah, the whole amount, right? I think that closed in January 2014. Right?
Yes.
That's right.
When did the proceeds actually hit the balance sheet? January also?
Right.
And how much were the closing costs?
Insignificant for that amount of money.
So all things being equal, the balance sheet should go up $1.8 million.
Well, you had
Being equal.
you had costs.
Assessments and costs and all
Yeah.
that coming in.
Yeah, you had a cost associated with that. So what you're really looking at is,
Steve, if you go back and look at some of our financials from last year, remember, Tommy, we asked for you to spike that out as a separate category?
Exactly.
And they're playing with that balance up to there. Is ready to put it.
That was January 14.
You probably did that.
Well, for the but for you look at last year's 14's numbers, you can see that that's brought out separately.
Okay. So we went from 2.5 down to about $1.9 million, and then 7, so we got about $1.2 million left to come up with.
Again,
The ADA maybe,
that is just
roughly?
a very big ballpark. We've done some other work since that as well. The handicap,
I think there was some minor projects along the way.
yes.
What?
Not a lot of science in that number. 2.5.
Right, you had said about 1.5 million to 2.5 million. I mean, it's a big spread. On that TEI, is that the E-Total software?
Totally, yes.
Totally.
It stands for
Totally.
totally integrated is what they changed their name to.
Okay. That's for the whole community, I assume, right?
Yeah.
In other words, if you go in there and pay for your golf.
Yes, and every facility would have a total E access. So when you go to recreation centers and that sort of thing, those will all end up being integrated through
They're all
the entire
integrated.
system.
Essentially, we had a POS system for our golf division, which was Fairways, which was being phased out. It's been here for over 15 years. So as that was being phased out, I think the company that had run it had been sold a couple times and they were playing out it. The rest of our places was mainly using either cash registers or just ticking off and collecting the money. So the plan was for the Total E, we will now have POS system integrated throughout the whole place, integrated with our GL, which we have not had before.
So all of that should be in place, running June?
No, we have it running right now, but as I mentioned earlier in my comments, we didn't pay for a turnkey. We're doing a lot of those things in-house. We've got, the golf is almost where it was with Fairways, so we pretty well got it back and running. We have more information available to us once we can start data mining it. We've now got the tennis, which was never on a POS system. We have Reardon Hall on the POS system, which before did not. So we are moving forward, but it's still going to be, I forgot what the timeline is, but we still got a little while to work on integrating things as we go along.
Okay. So is it fair to say that golf is sort of down during December, January, February? Is that fair?
In terms of number of rounds?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
but we're still open, right?
yeah.
Is the new software capable then, if you, like your IRA contribution, if you stuck it in 2015, you could code it for 2014, except in this case it's reversed. So if you went and paid in December of 2014 for 15, is the software capable of doing that?
Oh, yes.
So in theory then, next year, next December, I could go to the pro shop near my house. Someone else could go near Metfield and go to the pro shop and pay their membership services and be done with it.
No, we're not no, we have not got that far along. That was not the intent
Not
in the
in-
beginning. No. So what we were trying to do in the beginning,
I'm not sure I understand then. So
okay.
it's not all one package.
You said membership services.
Yeah?
Membership services was not, moving membership services to every place was not a part of this transition. We're talking about replacing a POS system.
So the TEI, that's software, right?
Yes.
So it's on someone's computer in the pro shop.
It's actually going to be here and we're using
The
virtual
server might
servers
be
at other
here, but-
places, yes.
And so membership services, same deal, the server's here, you go up there, you pay.
Yes.
You can pay online. But what you can't do is go to the swimming pool and pay for your membership services.
No, not yet. And we hope to be able to expand those type of things for the future.
But we couldn't do it with our old software. So we've got to upgrade to a new software system, and then what we have to do is train the people, and then ultimately there might be an opportunity to do exactly what you're suggesting
At some places.
at some places.
So maybe by the end of this year, is that sort of the goal, or?
No,
We've
no,
got
we
the
don't see
swimming
that by
pool.
the end of this year. If we're going, again, when we started this, mainly what we were looking at was bringing in a POS system to replace what we have with Fairways and to expand into the other locations. Some of those things you're talking about are more than a POS. They're a membership services type of module. We still have a ways to go to get that far.
So the membership module is still a separate deal then?
Part of it is integrated, part of it we still have to expand on.
Okay. So maybe 2 years?
There's no timeline. Some of it will require additional funding. If we're going to expand it out into additional things, again, what we were looking for in the beginning was to replace what we had. We didn't throw everything in that we wanted, buy it in one package.
Okay. So at the end of February, we had about 19 million in cash on the consolidated balance sheet. And then how is that spread around, or is it in one account?
Well, we have investment accounts. We have, some of it is in for the water, some of it's for the rest of the association. We have a sweep account. We have a payroll account. What exactly are you?
I mean, the CDs, or I think the investment account just began.
Yes,
Exactly.
before,
Right.
I think
before
that,
our
we could
only
only
method
do
was CDs.
Yeah, we changed the investment policy, and then we ended up going out with RFPs for investment managers.
Right.
And we selected Arvest Trust.
Right.
And that occurred just at the end of last month. So this is relatively new for us.
So the 19 that was there in February was maybe in CDs?
All of it
rolling
was
along.
CD.
Most of it was in CDs.
Okay. Was it in like one?
That was the reason for revising the policy, was to give us more flexibility for a little bit more aggressive investment, not leaving so much money on the table.
2008. So it's in one bank then, is that safe to say? The 19 million?
No.
No,
No.
no, it's spread around. So if it's spread around, who has the authority to withdraw some of the cash or the CDs if we need it for operating expenses or what have you?
There's 3 signatures, and it's oversaw by the CFO.
So it takes 3 signatures to get it out?
No, there's 3 signatures that are on file with the banks. Whenever we do a CD, there's 3 signatures, the CFO, myself, and the chairman of that, at that time.
So one person of the 3, so if something happens, we're still covered. It looks like at the middle of last year, we had maybe 140 employees, 100 and something like that.
Yes.
On the 990, it said 426 were employed in the calendar year, and maybe Mr. Mitchell can kind of clarify. Is that like a floating number or average, or?
The 140 is the full-time employees. We, of course, have a lot of part-time employees at different times. When you have what we usually talk about is FTEs, when we talk about a full-time employee, part-time employees. But because we are mainly dependent on a retired workforce, a lot of those people don't want to work a lot of hours in 1 week. So that makes we have a lot more employees to get the same hours. That's why that number can range up so high.
So those are
might be,
individuals.
Yeah.
Those are individuals that may be working 10 hours
Okay.
a week.
So it might be 100 full-time people and 350 part-time people. Does it,
140 full-time. that could be 250 people.
Yeah, right, that's what I mean. Individual. If you had a couple hundred, then that's actually,
Yep.
you just add up the
Yep.
hours to get the FTE.
To get the FTEs. Yep.
Okay. One last question. We offered, or Mr. Bailey offered to loan the city some available equipment, I guess when they had a fire a couple of months ago. It was commendable. Including a street sweeper and a culvert cleaner. And so that got me wondering, which is it? In other words, did we exit the street business, municipal services, or did we maintain partly some of the stuff?
Yes, we still have to have some of that equipment.
Yeah, I mean, we have parking lots, and there are a number of activities that the POA maintenance folks are doing that are related to street-type work.
Yeah, we still have
Whole Bella
streets
Vista
too.
Heights is our problem.
Yeah, Bella Vista Heights and that sort of thing.
Is that Cherokee Village? Is that the same thing? Or?
Cherokee Village is on the other side of the state. Bella Vista Heights is about a quarter mile east of 71 on the east side of Lake Bella Vista.
Right, so we sort of maintain that, or is that part of?
It is not part of the city. It continues to be part of the association.
It's part of the association, but not within city limits. So it's our responsibility.
One reason or another. And then here's the last question. On the 990, there's the for-profit or the non-profit, the 990T or something. Is that flow through, or is it kept separate, or is it like the water and the nonprofit picture?
The 990 is a 501c3 tax return, and the 992 is the non-taxable income versus taxable income. Because we have both, so we have enough expense to offset the taxable income, so we don't have to pay taxes, but we still have to pay it. What's the file for 992? It's all one corporation.
So if the POA reports 20 million of income, and then the for-profit reports $1 million, does that mean it's 19 plus the 1, or is it 20 plus the 1, but it's separate?
In a nonprofit corporation, Steve, there's something called unrelated business taxable income.
Right?
So we are a community organization, and the vast majority of our income and expenses are related to our nonprofit purpose. However, we rent space for a cell phone tower. According to the IRS, that has nothing to do with the community purpose that we were established for. And so the income related to renting a cell phone tower is something we have to report on the Form 990T, taxable income of a nonprofit corporation. But it's included in our total income. But we also have to break it out and say this is income that isn't related to our community organization.
Same with the expenses. Very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Moving on, old business, clubhouse restaurants. Tony, can you kind of fill us in on where we are?
Okay. First off, with the Highlands, as we have reported, we do have someone who's very interested. They have the applications. Don't think we've received their completed yet. They have toured the facility, and they are very interested. We also had one other contact that we were given, that we contacted them. I don't believe we've got a tour with them set up. They were going to contact us to do a tour. So we do still have 3 potentials in play for the Highlands Clubhouse, and we are We do have the one, I said, that has got the application. Dwayne's been following up with them fairly regularly, and they are very, very interested in starting something. They already have a food service in a nearby location. The next part of it is Metfield. Okay, moving on to Metfield. Lost my Metfield. Oh, no, I've lost my Metfield. Oh, there it is. Okay. After a lot of discussion last week about moving the membership services to the far south of that building, which is now a kitchen. When we moved membership services over there, we chose not to remove the kitchen equipment at that time. At this point, we are now going forward. This will not be a full-service restaurant in the future. And so, as was discussed earlier, we were talking about moving membership services back into that restaurant space, so that would open up the current membership services area to member use. And one of the issues is that we were going to start the grill that has already been mentioned, and that will take between it and adding fitness equipment at Metfield, it would take up the current space that's been used for card playing and fitness classes. So that is what we're trying to now establish an area by still going forward with those two places, by moving membership services to also have a card playing area and an exercise area. The board asked me to contact an architect, and we've met with him twice over there. He is, the fees that I was asked to come up with what the fees will be is $14,000 for him to do a complete change up of that facility if we do it at one time. If we membership services and the grill separately, then there would be an additional charge for that. So we need that funding if you're ready to move forward on that. This is a small architect that we've been using for minor jobs now for a while. We've used larger architects. Of course, they're a lot more expensive, and so that's why we have been using him for a while. We do not have to have approval for construction funding yet. If you choose, and until we get the architect's construction estimate, it's probably premature to ask you for any money for that. Once we go forward with that, once we do get to that far and we decide that we are going to proceed, my plan is to use a construction manager type versus doing a complete whole project bid. And we are now working on removing the kitchen items, some of which we're getting removed just for their value. So we've got, matter of fact, I think tomorrow they will start removing the walk-ins. We've already got someone who's going to take the ancillary systems, and so we're getting that stuff moved. We're starting to move the equipment out of the way so that they can get in there and start to work. So we're getting the project moving so that once we get the architects ready to do the bid documents, that we can move that forward as soon as possible.
Any questions?
Is any of that kitchen equipment usable at Highlands or Country Club?
Nick has already went out and looked through it. I don't know if Papa Mike has had anything, because he's already went through it, a number of times before. Most of the equipment, of course, is, vintage, around 87, 88. We have mainly been using, pieces of it and the yacht club to keep the old equipment in our other locations going. So there's not a lot of value to move that to another place at this point in time. And certainly because of the difference in sizes or what, as far as moving some of it out to the Highlands, I'm not sure that any of that could fit. But what about the walk-in? Yeah, okay, walk-ins, we're actually having problems with them as well, so it wasn't worth moving them.
Just for their scrap value or what?
No, actually, some of them we're getting actually for their value. They'll come in and do the work just to get that. The other, what mainly we're using is for people that are, what we usually hear from people is that ones that sell this type of equipment, and so they'll be willing to come and remove it for whatever value they can get. And again, a lot of it could be just parts for this type of equipment.
Any other questions, comments? Entertain a motion to move forward with this project with the architect.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the $14,000. I mean, where would we get that from? Reserves?
Have to come from
From reserves to hire an architect to do the planning for the Medfield project.
Second? Second? Okay. Any discussion?
Motion to fund the $14,000 from reserves to hire the architect to move forward with Metfield clubhouse plans. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. We have 2 vacancies on the election committee, and we've had applications from Gary Creekbaum and from Roger Scholes. Both of them have been in contact with Buddy Gray, who is the chairman of the election committee, and I'd like to appoint them to the election committee for 3-year terms. So it's Gary Creekbaum and Roger Scholes. Next item is the Dogwood replat.
Okay, before I actually show the graphics up on the screen, I wanted to, for our audience here as well as for our audience on television, that we give a little bit of history to this. We had I guess, pretty rudimentary driving range down in front of the country club for years. And sometime in the 90s, there was a decision to expand that into a more full-service type of driving range. That, of course, that land is made up of 2 parcels that is owned by CCI, our developer, and 1 parcel that is owned by the association. Again, this was considerably before my time, so I'm going on things that staff that has been here for many years has filled me in, as well as other members. Because of what we were wanting to do with something that was putting in something more permanent in nature, the developer would not allow us to build that on that property. They would give us the property that was there still. Certainly our little spot was not enough, and so there was a swap that was proposed to do that little slip that we have to go to the Tanyard Creek property. There was, up until I become general manager, there was not a lot of documented agreements between the POA and CCI. It was mainly gentleman agreements. Give them a call. Can we do this on your land? Yes or no? And that's the way it was. We have started documenting all those things since that period of time. Back about a year ago or so, I was contacted by CCI. Could we find the agreement that was made back at that period of time? They hadn't been able to find it, and we looked. We did look through our files and did not find any type of an agreement. I went back to employees that had been here longer, said they had not seen the agreement, but their understanding was there was such an agreement between the board and the developer at that point in time. So I feel fairly confident there was that agreement there. Where we are today is that CCI has started a proposed development in that area. And when they were doing the land searches, they discovered that there had never been that transfer. We still owned a piece of land separating their 2 parcels. So they approached us, could we go ahead and make that swap that was agreed to back at that period of time. Again, I do not have any type of documented That was agreed to, but that's what I've been told by previous employees. Sure.
We still own a small parcel, and CCI still owns
All of Tanyard Creek.
all of Taggart Creek. The lease,
Yes,
you have the written lease.
yes,
We have a written lease.
for 4 years.
Yeah.
So
4 years.
in 2019, that piece of property will fall out of the lease. There's a number of pieces of property, I don't remember, about 11, 12, something like that, that's a part of the total lease. And again, we didn't have this up until just a few years ago, we just used the property. 15. Of that whole group, 3 of those do not fall into the automatic renewal. And one of those is the Tanyard Creek driving range. So what I'm bringing back before you today is the proposal that has been given to us by the developer of a replatting of our piece of property in turn for completing the project of giving us the land that is now Tanyard Creek practice facility. So I've got some pictures just to kind of show you what we're talking about, but I wanted to give a little bit of history to that first. This essentially is, and this is kind of facing east right here. Country Club's right over here. So these 2 pieces of property is owned by CCI. And of course, this is Dogwood right through here. Dogwood Drive, yes. This is the property that is owned by the association. You've got 18, then you've got 10, and there's this little, I shouldn't say little, but there's a piece of property that goes down here and dissects that piece of property. What the developer has proposed for us is that we would exchange this piece of property right here for the Tanyard Creek piece of property. That would then, of course, give them the total of that piece. And I did not have a plat handy for this, so this is just an overview with the lot lines that is on it. But this is the Tanyard Creek complex that we own. We own the road all the way over here to where, of course, it begins into the Country Club Golf Course and then along this area. So this is the area that is now under lease. I said owned. That's the area that is now under lease as a part of that agreement from back in the 90s, is my understanding. Yes, yes. What they have proposed is this become ours, this becomes ours, that becomes theirs. That is something that they cannot unilaterally do, so they had to come back to us to ask if we would be willing to agree to that replat of the 2 areas.
Your graphic indicated that the Tanyard Creek practice facility was just a little bit under 19 acres. I think I see 18.855 acres.
Yes.
We have a ballpark estimate on the that little slice there. I'm thinking 2-ish.
Right about 2.5, Doug
2.5
says.
acres. Okay, thank you.
Left side, the lower left side, the blue line. Is that cart path? Hear you.
I just wanted clarification that that's a cart path,
Right in this area.
yeah, and then
Yes.
all the way through back. So actually, even though we've maintained that area, it's their area.
Yes.
We'll have to replace that cart path.
Yes, we'll, it's also according to what they do right here. If they don't come all the way to right this area, then that cart path may not have to be moved, and we may can even get them to give us that land. But at this point in time, I guess until they can finalize what they have, I can't answer whether or not this cart path will for sure have to be moved.
The other thing, this lease agreement was effective January 1st, 2013, and it has 15 tracts that are land land areas that are owned by CCI that are used predominantly by the POA for some recreational purpose. And what they ended up doing was, the consideration is basically an acknowledgement that both parties understand this is valuable to them, so we're not paying any dollar amount for this lease. It's just, it's beneficial to CCI to have these recreational activities on their land, and it's beneficial, obviously, for us to have land to be able to use for recreational purposes, so there's no exchange of dollars, as it were. The term is 5 years, and it has a renewal period with respect to 12 of the 15 properties, and the 3 that are accepted, one of which is the Tanier Creek Recreation Area Driving Range Parking, Golf Facilities, Tanier Creek Hiking Trails, and Facilities. So what they've done is basically accept that out as one of the tracks that would not be subject to renewal. And so we're at a point where in 2019, we may run the risk that they may say, gee, we'd like to develop this for some other purpose, and we don't really have any recourse necessarily under this agreement. And that's part of the consideration too.
And we do not have any really good options that I can think of. We already are sorely in need of smaller practice areas at every golf course, which you normally see. And so if we were to lose the one that we have, I don't know where we would replace it. It certainly wouldn't be centralized that I can think of anything right now.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Tommy, when we talked about this last time, you were going to ask Cooper for the balance of the Tanier Creek area, including the walking trails. And I'm assuming that he was not willing to do that, and I was wondering what possible use could he make of that area other than just to hold it as leverage against the POA?
At this point in time, and when I did approach him, he said that he wanted to keep these two things separate. And part of it was that he's already had the surveys of both areas done. He did tell me that that land is already a part of the master plan for the trails, as we've just had, and he had thought that they probably would be turning over those type of properties to us that were being used for the trail. So at least
He wouldn't commit to doing that?
No, it was not a commitment. No, it was not.
Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion for the board to approve the transfer of the properties.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal to transfer or swap the, I'm not quite sure what we call this property at the golf course, but swap the Cooper property sliver for the Tanier Creek practice facility, and I assume that's going to be effective May 1, or?
Well, when we get it all worked out. Certainly there's a little bit more time going to be because of the denial of the
Variance?
variance, yes, excuse me, variance.
Second? Any further discussion?
The motion is to approve the proposal to swap what I'll call the country club property for the Tanier Creek property. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 5-2.
The next item is parking.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Tom Richards, and I live at 63 Dogwood Drive, down below the subject area here. public hearing, anything like that?
No,
This is
it is
strictly,
not.
strictly limited to board action?
We are a private entity.
And then when was this notice added to the agenda for courtesy to the people that are interested in it?
The agenda was published in the normal course that we end up publishing agendas.
And when was it added to that agenda, this line item specifically?
Tuesday? Tuesday,
And that's normal?
yes.
It's normal, and no other notice was required?
No.
All right, I believe that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marking and Communications Committee report. We met on April 6th. There was a brief report on the history of the ambassadors and their involvement with supporting guests and giving people tours, and the fact that the ambassadors received a donation from Marvest Bank, which is to be used to advertise the Military Times magazine, which will start this spring. There was a discussion about the role of marketing as part of communications. In the Village Voice, there was a business reply card included. We had, at the time of the meeting in early April, 800 cards returned, broken down by different age demographics. There also were less than 2% that opted not to receive the Village Voice. We talked about opportunities with the city to share information and insights, and the city is still working on that. And then there was a brief discussion about the newspaper ads for restaurants that were placed in surrounding metropolitan newspapers. So that's the report of the Marketing Communications Committee. Rules and regulations, Bob?
Thank you, Charlie. We met first Monday of April, and I believe there's to discuss a change in the bylaws to allow for electronic voting. I believe that's part of your packet, and we need to have a first reading of that.
The changes that I've noted would be in Article 5 of the bylaws regarding, instead of mailed and received, we would substitute provided. And then in Article 10, there's a new subsection 4 that talks about ongoing development of new technologies and corresponding changes in business practice, which would permit notice to be sent or received electronically. And then there's a couple of additional changes in Article 11 that again substitute provided for mailed and make reference to electronic delivery. So those are essentially the changes that we're looking at. I would entertain a motion to have the board consider these changes to the bylaws for first reading. Second? Any further discussion? Call for vote.
To approve the proposed changes to the bylaws on the first reading that have been provided to you in your packets, your board packets. All in favor? Any opposed?
I just wanted to add, I wanted to compliment our attorney for the fine wordsmithing you did on these, and leaving us open for any new technology that might be utilized in the future.
And I was thinking that Doug would end up with about 25 pages of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And when I saw it, it's like, wow, this is really pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And I
Dave.
did say wordsmithing, not weasel wording.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
So, yeah, way to go. Any joint advisory committee reports?
The golf committee met last week and talked a little bit about the expo they had and how they might improve and change for next year, but felt it was very successful. They're very heavy into increasing golf rounds, so they're trying to do anything they possibly can, so they're identifying marketing areas that they've been working on. And another one that they've come up with, again, is Cooper Elementary will be working with the SNAG program, and Andy and his staff will be working with them. That'll be this next week with fourth graders, and it's exposing all fourth graders from Cooper Elementary to the game of golf, and hopefully their parents as well.
Also, I think we should mention, there's been a couple of cancellation of tournaments here at the country club due to the inability of our watershed system to handle water. And that's specifically between number 1 green and number 2 tee. And so I think at some point when we talk about budgeting this year, we should look at some sort of a method of egress over that.
Yeah, we brought that forward, probably been over a year ago, after the August flood. Not only do we need that, but we feel strongly that, and I've asked them to get some ground sonar to go over there and check it, but we think it's been undercut, that large area that's the overflow there. So we have put numbers together and solutions together. We just need to kind of verify how far do we have to really go with it.
Okay, thank you.
For the Lakes Committee, met yesterday. Very big things planned for the 50th anniversary. For those of you with children, I think it's the 13th, it's the first weekend, or second weekend of the month. They have Fishing in Paradise, 700 catfish to catch, games all day, and the following week they'll have Paddle in Paradise. Big, that's right, that's changed. Sorry, scratch that one. That's what we need for. So if you have children, keep an eye out for it. It should be a very exciting day.
The three things from the Recreation JAC meeting I want to pass along. First, Clem is working with a running organization in Bentonville to host a 5K, I think it is, run here in Bella Vista in conjunction with our 50th anniversary celebration. Still working on that. There were some complaints about the condition of the tennis courts at Branchwood, which immediately led to some more discussion about the even worse conditions of the tennis courts and pickleball courts at Metfield. So we spent a lot of time discussing how bad they really are and how much it would really cost to fix them properly and not just patch them again. Apparently, even when we patch them, players are still not happy with it because it creates a dead spot in the court.
It's got a different surface.
So that's an ongoing issue, and guys, we really need to do something about that. I mean, it's going to take several $100,000 to do it right, or just close the things. They're just an eyesore. And finally, there was some complaints about children at the gun ranges apparently not having proper parental supervision. And there was a long conversation about things that happen out at the gun range, and Vern did a marvelous job of highlighting all the good stuff we've done there in the last couple of years and how it's much better now than it's ever been. But, ultimately we're going to need something like a range master and to really supervise that area properly. There was some discussions about some modernization, some technology to avoid having to get the key from Branchwood, maybe a card you could swipe to get in the facility. And Vern did a great job avoiding the sensitive issues about the gun range. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Announcements. The next GM Board monthly meeting will be on Thursday, May 7th at 2:30 in the Country Club Board meeting room. It's a closed discussion meeting. The next Board of Directors work session will be held Thursday, May 14th, 8 a.m. in the Country Club Board meeting room. The POA annual meeting for 2015 will be Tuesday, May 19th to 6:30 at Reardon Hall. And the next Board of Directors regular meeting will be Thursday, May 21st, 6:30 here in the Country Club Board meeting room.